reminisce. Yeah.
PFA Podcast, episode number 3, semifinal edition. It is finally here to you. We have a show planned for you today. I will promise you that. We have news from 3 of the 4 semifinal teams. We're going to talk to Sturs head coach Dakota Robertson. Always a very interesting conversation. And we have some new people on the show today. We're going to talk to G-ville, Gideon Jarvis. Check on his thoughts about this upcoming rivalry semifinal week. Looking for his chance again at another time for his first overall ring. And we're going to talk to Virgil Salmons yet again in the semifinals. 2-0 in the semifinals. We're going to see what he's got to say. And we have a couple new segments. We're going to bring Commissioner Derek Robertson in for the Commish Corner. And as always, we want to bring in Ryan Bo Stumbo for a new segment we like to call Bo Knows. And also we have a special guest for you, and we'll be talking to him a little bit later. But let's get right into it here on PFA today. Let's talk about the PFA news, something that has been kind of dull this week, other than the fact since the last time we talked that the semifinals, the games were decided. The Sturs somehow held off Tom Brady and the Boners and ended up winning, going to the semifinals. And also, Big Verge obviously went ahead and held on to that. G-ville moved on. So in the semifinals in the PFA, we have Big Verge, a 7 seed, versus the Smokers with a 6 seed, and G-ville with the 8th, taking on the Sturs, America's team, with the 5th overall seed. And again, we will talk to 3 of the 4 managers a little bit later on, but again, let's check the news here. The only real huge news coming out of the PFA, and something that we are proud to announce here the last couple days, Ballers GM Jason Meddings, yet again, 5th straight year, named PFA Man of the Year, and it is well-deserved. It is well-earned. This man single-handedly probably keeps the PFA as far away from hellfire and brimstone as possible. And just to add even more to his already, unbreakable reputation as a man of the year and a good human, today, Jason Meddings, 3 hours ago, tweets out, GM of the Ballers, guys, if you know any families in need of toys, tell them we're giving toys out Saturday at noon. And I've gathered a bunch of toys, and if you look at the pictures on the PFA website, there are a lot of toys for a lot of kids in need. And this is something that not the average person does. It's a J. Meddings move, and we are absolutely thrilled that we have him in this league and that he can continue to make this league reputable. Other than that, it has been a slow week in the PFA. Not much news at all, and really it's not very good, to be honest with you. We need some news coming out. We don't have much rivalry going on. I've talked to a lot of people around the PFA in the last couple of days here since the semifinal Monday games were set. And we expected a lot of talk between Gideon Jarvis and Dakota Robertson, and quite frankly, there hasn't been any. And we talked to both of them, and you'll get to hear what they've got to say a little bit later, and that might change something. But other than that, again, slow PFA week. Not much to talk about on that end. Just my own opinion diving into the PFA semifinal games. You got to look at a team like Big Verge, who, by the way, this past week gained a huge bump in points projected up to 132 points simply because Devontae Adams goes from a guy projected at 11 points to 15 because Aaron Rodgers is back. And if you look at Big Verge matchups, Dak Prescott, Dez Bryant together, versus the Oakland Raiders, a team that is completely derailing. I believe they're going to go berserk this week. On the other side of that, again, you got Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown with the Smokers. Again, I'm picking the Smokers to probably win their first overall title simply because of Ben and Antonio are unbeatable. But a new injury popped up today, PFA News. Leonard Fournette did not practice today. He's got a quad injury. Set out practice. Again, this guy, something that we'll talk about eventually in one of our podcasts about how these rookies get these big paychecks and then they just play 5 or 6 games all year. something that has annoyed me and I know has annoyed most of the league. So that is a game that I'm going to go ahead initially pick Big Verge. Tonight, however, looking through between this game here, I don't see anybody with a Thursday night game. So it's going to be kind of a boring night on that end. Then we go to the game of the week by far, and it is Gville, the 8th seed, underdogs versus the Sturs. And again, looking through here, not many huge news here. The only big news is Tevin Coleman did not practice today because he is still in the concussion protocol, and he is questionable at best. He's been out for a while. He got concussed last Thursday. Looking through here, no big Thursday night game. So tonight's going to be a boring night for the PFA on Thursday, but I tell you what, I'm about to make it more exciting. We're going to talk a little bit with Dakota Robertson coming up here, talking about the game of the week, Gville versus Sturs, coming up next.
Hey, what's your name, baby? Maybe we can sing the same. Now don't you wait, hesitate. Let's move before they raise the party rate. All right now, baby, it's all right now.
Got to think that song is echoing through the White House as we speak, and also through the big house on Timber Lane for Dakota Robertson in the semifinals yet again, searching for his first PFA ring, something that he has fought for. He is the last manager of the original 4 or 3, really, to not have a ring, and he has a really good chance at it this year. And we're going to talk to Dakota, and we have him on the line right here. You know, Dakota, coming off of a really emotional win last week against the Boners, a lot of heat, a lot of talk, really takes a lot out of your players. Tell me a little bit about how you have refocused your guys and refocused your whole organization, really, in order to prepare for a really a talented Gville team.
That win over the Boners was so emotional. Everybody knows it. What that game brought to the table was pure sex drive, wins, and just flat-out cussing matchup. And that's what we had to do to win that game. We had to bring some sex drive. And Ryan Stumbo, he's a sexual man. We had to beat him. He's a sex demon. The only way to beat a sex demon is to knock the door down, scream him, and say, "Where is the son of a bitch?" That's the only way you're going to beat one of those. You're not going to tiptoe around and win a championship.
Hear you. I absolutely hear you on that. Outstanding game this past weekend. We know the entire league knows when you and Ryan Stumbo go at it, it's going to be a war. But now you set your sights on Gville. Tell us what you saw this week on film, studying them a little bit. What are some of the advantages or some of the things you think you have a leg up on Gville this upcoming week?
To be honest with you, when I went on the Gville, I haven't even watched their film, and I don't plan on watching their film. How I stay focused against Gville? Well, I'm addicted to winning. I love to win. I eat, sleep, and breathe WIN, okay? I love winning. I'm obsessed with it. I go to bed, that's all I think about is winning this league. It gets me hard winning this league. I want to win it, okay?
Yeah, I tell you what. We know, and in this league know that you are addicted to winning. Whether you do that much, we don't know. But, like I said, this is your first opportunity in a long time to have a shot at least reaching the PFA title game. And we're just wondering, has it hit you yet that you are basically one game away from at least appearing in a PFA title game and really 2 games away from winning that first ring, something that is really a long time coming?
I think about it every night and day, okay? Does that answer your question? I think about it every night and day. Every night and every damn day, okay? Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I want that championship. There's nothing that would make me more happier as an owner to know that I'm number one. And I love being number one. You got to have that attitude. You got to have that winning attitude. You got to have that Ricky Bobby in you. And that's what we bring to this table.
Well, it sounds like your guys are definitely ready to play. It sounds like you, as always, are ready to play. But I will tell you this. If you ever show up on my show again and you play music in the background, you will never, ever come back on this podcast again. That I will tell you. I control the music in this thing. Other than that, we were excited to have Dakota Robertson on. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the update. PFA fans and the Dakota Crazies are ready to go. PFA News, Business News, alerted that tickets have already been sold out, and 17 fan buses will be leaving from Gville, and also they are expected to sell out in Stur's home stadium this week. Tickets have already been sold out for the whole playoffs, but this is something different. There's a different vibe in the air. There's a different excitement for this Stur's team, and we'll see if they can pull it off. You know, Dakota Robertson, loved by few, hated by many in this league, and that interview really sums it up. And next, we're going to talk to, hopefully, a more reasonable general manager in Gideon Jarvis. First time on the podcast, and we'll see what he has to say about his semifinal matchup against the Robsters, coming up on the PFA Podcast.
Charleston girl in a dark and blue.
That's Tyler Childers. If you're not listening to him, I don't know if we can be friends. And Gideon Jarvis coming up next, and he is a guy that is also getting into Tyler Childers recently. And Gville, back to them, find themselves on the cusp of another PFA championship appearance, a team that has been highly successful, a manager that has been highly successful, and just hasn't got that ring yet. But we have Gideon Jarvis on the line now. And Gideon, you know, including this show, I will be the first to admit, I believe, last week, did say that you have one of the worst and least talented rosters to ever make a PFA semifinal appearance. But just to clear the air, I think that if you, what it means is, really it's a testament to your managerial skills. But that has been something a lot of critics over the last couple weeks have said. A team that devoid of talent, but still somehow finds himself in the semifinals. And what is your reaction or statement or reply to anybody that really says something like that?
You know, Brady, that's something we've heard over the last few weeks since defeating the U. I've heard a lot of critics saying, "Oh, the Ville don't have the talent to make a run. They may have the least talented team in the Final Four teams." If you look closely at our team, I think arguably we have the best receiving core in the league. Aside from the Rucks, I think the Rucks also had a great receiving core this year. But you look at that really is something that has held us together, has pushed us this far. I think the QB play, it's been suspect at times, but we've been able to get a decent game here or there, the quarterback position. And then tight end, it was a position that we were kind of weak in at first, but we did make a move there. Thought it was big. The trade we made with the Lumberjacks to get a guy like Hunter Henry, a possible keeper, and a guy that's been able to turn in, 15-point performances a week. So defensive play, we've been solid throughout, and I think this Gville team has put themselves in a great position. We're going for our first title here, and I think this team, regardless of what anybody wants to say, they are the weakest team in the semifinals ever, I think that's really a crock of bull, because they're here, and that's the main thing. We are in a position to win it. So yeah.
Hey, don't kill the messenger. But I will say this: you make an excellent point there at the end. Regardless of whether your team is or is not one of the least talented teams, the bottom line is, like you said, you're there. You're in the semifinals, and that means the critics talking about the talent of the roster means nothing. But now you turn your sights to the Sturs, a team that has a lot of firepower, coming off a huge emotional win against the Boners last week, just like yourself. Just watching film so far and paying attention and looking at their roster, what are some of the things you've noticed about the team that jumps out at you about the Sturs, and some advantages that you feel like your team has over those guys?
The Robsters are obviously a team that here at the Ville we are very familiar with. It seems like year in and year out we're in the same division battling it out. This year, split the series. You look at their team; they're just unbelievably talented across the board. Have arguably the best player in the league, and Le'Veon Bell just is an absolute workhorse, and it's unbelievable the things that he's been able to do. We were able to, at the last time we played, able to get the best of them, but that's not to take anything for granted. I thought the game in which we beat them, my team played a superb game and executed perfectly, and I think that really is what's required of you if you're going to beat a team like the Sturs. Perfect execution, nonetheless. You look at their team, haven't had to really watch a whole lot on film with this team. Like I said, we play them year in and out. We know what to expect of this team. It's a high-flying offensive show, really. I think where our advantages lie are where they've lied all year long against anybody, and that's our receiver play. If we can get, the points we need, the plays that are necessary out of our receivers, I think that'll give us a chance. Been a little bit of a mix-up at the QB position for us this week. Simply put, Matt Ryan's not been getting it done for us. Had Matt in the office Monday. We talked about things. We brought in a couple guys that we think maybe could, take over the starting job. So, that remains to be seen. It'll be a game-time decision where we go with that. But I think, all in all, I think the receiver play is going to be the most important for us in containing Le'Veon Bell. That being said, I don't think there is another opponent we'd rather see here in the semifinals, because both of us are vying for our first championship. I think it would be great for both organizations to get there.
Wow, so you're going to hear it here first on the PFA podcast. G-ville has possibly benching Matt Ryan here. Gideon, let's just cut through the chase here. A lot of boringness, really, this week, and there shouldn't be between you and Dakota Roberts. You have a lot of love loss between the two of you, a lot of smack talking, heck, games where you don't even play each other. Somehow seems that the G-ville and the Sturs end up batting heads somewhere. Just be honest. Tell us what you think about Dakota Roberts, the manager of the Sturs, and what do you expect to say, post-game or pre-game this week?
I don't think it's any secret. The rivalry between the Ville and the Sturs, it's something that's maybe somewhat flew under the radar, I think, compared to other rivalries in the league, but it's definitely a heated rivalry. You had before the draft this year, you had the owners going back and forth with a little war of words, and then you had the players, this year during the season, just coming back and forth. You've seen them on Twitter, you've seen them just on multiple social media sites having the back and forth. When these two teams get together, it's hostile, at best. But to say it would be sweeter to beat the Sturs, I can't necessarily say that. Any team in a position to get to the title game, any team in the semifinals, they're just looking to beat the opponent in front of them, and that holds true with us. It doesn't matter if it's the Jacks, if it's the Smokes, if it's Big Verge, whoever the opponent is in the semifinals, we want to win that game. We want to beat our opponent. So I think the most important thing for us is just to come out, execute our game plan, and hopefully, do what it takes to make that title game.
And I tell you what, you have a really good chance to make it this week. Gideon, thank you for coming on the show for the first time, and hopefully we'll be having the same conversation next week with a PFA title on the line. Next up, we are going to, after the break here, talk with Commissioner Derek Robertson. He's going to update us on several things. And we'll go on to our first segment of the year called Bo Knows, and he'll take over for a little bit. And we'll close the show talking with Virgil Sammons and Ryan Atkins on the other semifinal game of the week, coming right up on the PFA Podcast. Welcome back again, PFA Podcast, Episode 3, semifinal week. I want to take a break from talking about the games for a minute, and we're going to catch up with Derek Robertson, Commissioner Derek Robertson, talk a little bit about the Rucks and a little bit about the league. Coming right up, Commissioner Derek Robertson on the line, and very thankful to have you, Derek. We have a great great semifinal weekend ahead of us. We know that the season absolutely is not over with. Fun's not over. But looking ahead to the spring, have you given any thought to any major rule changes or the keeper status coming up here in really just about 3 or 4 months away?
That's a good question. Obviously, I think we got a great semifinals on our hand in this year. I think we got some new teams in there that are looking for their first championship, and I think it's going to be incredible. But to get to your question, obviously, I'm always looking forward to the next season and preparing and trying to do what I can to make our league better. And I feel like we're in the right direction. I feel that the keeper system that we have has had just a very positive impact. And when we started this whole keeper thing, I felt like, this is kind of what we envisioned. Was a dynasty type feel, and with as realistic as running a franchise as you can get to the NFL and things like that. So I think all of our managers do a great job of managing their picks and making moves to improve their team for not only this, the years they're in, but the previous years that lie, or the future years that lie ahead. So, I'm really happy with the way everything's played out. I think there's great parity in our league. I think this season has been one of our best overall in fantasy since we've been doing it, because you look at all the teams were very even this year. I think you look at even the Knights and Sofa King, who had bad win-loss records, but look at the points that they allowed. Like, there were weeks they had some bad luck, and teams just had big weeks on them. I think that was why their teams struggled more than their teams being much worse than the rest of the league. So I think that's always encouraging. And obviously, I've got a Facebook post pinned to the top of our group page to where you can look at everything for 2018. If you've got any questions, you can go to that and you can look at it. And, if you've got, it'll answer anything that you got. So I think that's a very good piece of information to have there, to have that at the top, and to be able to look at that, whether it's how many draft picks did you trade, or what round your keepers are in. And I think for me, that's the next thing kind of on my agenda, is to make out a list, which I've already started if you look on that post, of every team's keepers, every single player on their roster. And that way that manager knows what round value each player on their roster is and where they can keep them at. So I think that's exciting. As far as the keeper deadline goes, we'll have to set a date for the draft, but I imagine the deadline will be probably a week or two again before the draft. And I think that'll be a very exciting time as usual for our league.
You're exactly right. Something about this league I don't think the league itself gets enough credit for is it's a year-round league. Like you said, we're already thinking about, a week before the draft in June sometime next year. We're already thinking about that. But, again, I appreciate all of the commissioner updates. Another one that I often get from calls in and questions, the league payout. Is there any updates, or can you explain for the listeners the league payout for this upcoming football season? It's almost time to pay up.
Yeah, that's another good question, and it's something I probably should have made a post about, and if I didn't, I apologize for that. But the league payout system that we had is $175 to the regular season champion, which I've already gotten advance to Adam Muncie, and he has received that. $450 to the PFA champion, $200 to the runner-up, and $75 to third place. In the future, we're going to look into different ways we can maybe get a different type of payout system to reward some teams, and I'm going to look into that next year, and I'm going to see what we can do with that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of money in the PFA, a lot of money to be had, a lot of winning, And it is almost essentially its own business. I can remember back in the day when we started it, it was free, and then it ended up $20. We thought was, oh my gosh, $20. Now we're up to $50 and $75 buy-ins, possibly reaching $100 soon. This league is definitely worth it. But enough of the commissioner updates. Let's talk a little bit about the Rucks, about your team this year, a team that we have stated on this podcast many times, probably the most talented team to not make the playoffs ever. You got a guy like Todd Gurley and a guy like Julio Jones, but enough about this season. Talk a little bit about just the overall feel. You got 2 stud top 5 keeper possibilities. Kind of just talk about where the Rucks are currently right now.
Yeah, it was a challenging year for my team. We had some good talent. I thought we got off to a pretty decent start. We just never could go on a long enough winning streak to really separate us from the pack and to give us a little bit of breathing room. I think looking back on this team, it's a team that, finished 3rd in the league in points. So it's really tough for me to hang my head on this group of Rucks because, I felt like I'd done everything I could do to put us in position to be in the playoffs, and it just didn't pan out for us. It was challenging. It was tough. The way this season ended, would have really liked to have seen our guys get a shot, but everything is going to happen for a reason. You've got to accept it, and we'll move on. And we're really looking forward to 2018. I think we've got still a solid foundation with this team. Obviously, we anticipate having Todd back next year. He turned in a fantastic year this season. Kind of a shame we couldn't capitalize on it and get to the playoffs and make a run, but he'll probably cost us a first-round pick next year. It's a high price tag, but one that I think you have to pay. And then our other keeper, it's up in the air. Julio Jones is an immense talent. He's been with us for 3 years in a row now. Next year would be 4. But he's got a high draft pick cost, and that will be something we're evaluating, and we'll continue to evaluate throughout the summer as we push forward to the deadline. Jordan Howard's another guy that we'll have to give consideration due to his value being around 12. Obviously, he struggled for us down the stretch. Consistency hasn't been there at all with him, but he's a young back on a team that should be committed to run the football in the future. So we're really looking forward to 2018 and putting 2017 in the rearview mirror, and getting ready for next year is going to be a good challenge, and I know these guys are up for it. We're ready for it, and we'll enjoy the little break that we'll get, and we'll get back to it and get back to competing for championships starting next season.
That you will do, brother. I tell you that. The Rucks, first-class organization, and we, all of us here at the league, thank you for running a first-class league, 13 years as commissioner of the PFA. It is a way of life. It is its own entity, and in a lot of it, most of it has to do with your leadership. Tell you what, folks, thanks to Derek Robertson for showing up for the Commissioner Corner. We have a special treat here at the halftime of the PFA podcast, something that I have worked a lot to try to get to set up for you here, and I am happy about it, and we'll get to it right next after the break. PFA Podcast, Episode 3, Semifinals. Folks, I am thrilled to announce that we have somehow managed to get our president, Donald J. Trump, on the line, calling in to the PFA podcast. A lot of work has been put into this, and it turns out he is a huge fan of the PFA. And without further ado, I'm going to shut up, and we're going to talk to President Donald J. Trump.
What a great honor to be on the show. Highly successful, and actually a show that treats me fairly for once. But what a great honor for you to have me on your show. This will spike the ratings. They'll go through the roof. It'll be huge and fantastic for not only your show, it'll do great wonders for the league as well. I want to start off by congratulating all the semifinal teams. Ryan Adkins, I told you we'd do great with unions. Unions love Trump. Virgil Salmons, I protected the Second Amendment, Virgil. You can keep using that gun to kill those deer. Keep killing them, buddy. Also, Gideon Jarvis, I won't forget that you supported Ben Carson. Simply can't do it. Thanks for getting on board late. Should have been on board the whole time. Dakota Robertson, a personal friend of mine. And, by the way, so glad to hear about the coal business. I told you we would do it. It's better than ever. So glad to hear that all your trucks are back up and running. Your business is doing great. You're doing fantastic. Personal friend of mine, could have used you as a vice president candidate. I settled for Mike Pence. Completely settled. But what a great honor that it was for me to have you on my campaign team. Greatly appreciated. Great friend, great guy. Go Sturs. And I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas from Donald J. Trump. That's right. Merry Christmas. We don't say Happy Holidays anymore. We've totally gotten rid of it. We've repealed everything from Obama. He was a complete failure and a total loser. Thank you all. Merry Christmas. Go Stars. Go PFA. And vote Trump in 2020.
And that was President Donald J. Trump. Once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm thrilled to have him on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to take a break. We'll come back next. Finish up talking about this week's semifinal games. Talk with none other than Bo Stumbo, and we'll close it out here on the PFA Podcast. Make America Great Again. Back again, PFA Podcast, and we have Virgil Salmons on the line. He is definitely a country boy. And Virgil, another semifinal appearance over an upset over the number 2 seeded Bradlack Escalades last week. You know, just a few short weeks ago, your team was struggling. Is this where you expected your team to be just a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, we're off a really big win against the 2-seed Escalades. In my opinion, they was the true number 1. And, you know, I just caught fire and got hot at the right time. That's what you got to do in fantasy. You just got to, you got to set the best lineup you can out there. And just hope your team gets hot at the right time. I mean, as you look in years past, teams that win, teams that get hot late. Teams that start off good and are solid all throughout the year usually, fall off toward the end of the year, whether it be due to injuries or, just falling off, But, back again in the semifinals as well. It's just another game is the way we got to look at it. It's what I keep telling the guys. It's another game. Yeah, it's a big game. But we have been here. We've been here our share of time. I think twice now. 2-0 semifinals. But we can't look at that. That's just numbers from the past. Past is behind us. What we do now predicts our future. Can't really look behind us and get what we're going to do this week because it's a different year, different team, different players. But yeah, excited to be back in the semifinals. Looking back a few weeks ago to get to your point about me seeing how my season panning out. I didn't see it going this way. I was playing terrible. Lost to the 12 seed week 12. Week 11. Lost to the 12 seed. Then come up, had 2 division games back-to-back in the Ballers and the Rucks, and it was a tough division, man. We beat up on each other, and it was rough from time to time. In my opinion, one of the best teams in it all was actually eliminated week 13. So I'm very proud of my team. Beat two two very, very powerful teams, in my opinion. According to my power rankings, I'd have them two in the top three. And I was just able to, get hot and outscore them. And it had nothing to do with them doing bad. They had great games. They put up, 130. I think Scalades last week put up around 150. And right down to the wire, I had like 170 and wasn't even comfortable, because just an organization like the Scalades, man, can't lay down. You got to keep going, And the game ball last week went to Alex Collins, man. He really put solidified a great week for Big Verge, and took some pressure off heading into Monday. But wow, that was a great matchup. But looking back around I would say week 12 in the Ballers came to Virginton and stomped our ass. We was looking down. We was looking down on ourselves. Even myself. I never give up on my team, but that really had my confidence way down after losing to the 12 seed, followed by the Ballers, and knowing that I had a top 3 team coming into town week 13. I thought it was a wrap. I thought I was done for. Gurley coming to town, Mike Evans, and I just thought I was done. Jordan Howard, I thought it was just an obstacle that was too tough to overcome at that point. But here I am now. I got hot. I beat 2 good teams, really, really great teams in my opinion. And I look forward to the semifinal game.
Yeah, Verge, that's something that your team has absolutely done. Recently gotten hot. Going to try to carry that momentum onto a Smokers team. Team that, much like the other 3, excluding you, trying to get their first ring. I'm sure you've watched a lot of film and observed that roster this week. What are some things that you've noticed that about this Smokers team that you may have an advantage with?
Yeah, we got a real tough opponent coming in here this week in Escalade. This is, 3 weeks in a row we've had our backs to the wall. First with the Rugs, then the Scalades. Now we get the Smokes in here, man. I'm not looking back on numbers. I don't care if they haven't ever won a semifinal game. That's in the past. They got a new team, improved team. He's gotten better every year managing his team. There've been rumors out that Coach Jay Meddings has been setting his lineup, but I think that's all hogwash. Atkins is finally learning the tides of the trade. He's improved a lot during the draft. Free agency has been active. That's the biggest part about fantasy football. It ain't nothing to do with. It has a lot to do with the draft. Don't get me wrong, but the free agency part is the biggest effect, in my opinion. That's where you get, your bench and your bust out players that, just go absolutely crazy. Like, for instance, look at my team. My starting 2 running backs came from friggin' free agency. Dion Lewis and Alex Collins. I'm very, very delighted with what they have produced for me. Without them, I'm not here right now, so the free agency is huge. And watching film on the Smokes, man, you just look, and it's a different team. It's a different environment. It's just a different atmosphere in Marlboro Stadium. We got to go in there and just play like it's our last game. Play every game like it's your last. Leave it all out there. And watching film, I've seen, you got Big Ben, Antonio Brown, they'll just gut you for 40 apiece. And, you can't let that happen. You got to limit them. You got to put a stop to it. You got to make Big Ben throw elsewhere. Don't let him have AB. I know it's hard, probably almost near impossible, but we gotta get pressure on him and slow him down. That's all we got to do. We got to slow him down. But that ain't all they got. You get Lenny Fournette, really good player, but seen news today he didn't practice today. I don't want that. I want to be the team at their strongest point. It's not a win for me if I'm not beating the team at their strong point.
And Leonard Fournette, absolutely questionable for this Sunday for the Smokes would be an absolute huge blow. And again, we thank Virgil Salmons, GM of Big Verge, 2-0 in the semifinals. A team that is very capable of going to his third PFA title and search for the third ring, something that's never been done. We'll be right back, and we'll talk to Ryan Bostumbo, and we'll try to get Ryan Atkins on the line coming up next on the PFA Podcast.
Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro Country.
Welcome back, PFA Podcast, and we are thrilled to have finally gotten through and gotten a hold of the Chain Smokers general manager and head coach, number 1 rated smoker in the world, and it is none other than Ryan Atkins. And Ryan Atkins, as we like to call him, he came off a huge win against I wouldn't call it a rival, probably best friend in the Ballers. And, you're an organization that struggled a lot when you first got in the league, really the doormat of the league for a long time, but you've been the second most successful in terms of wins and winning percentage organization the last 2 years. Talk a little bit about where you're at now and the game this week, and where do you expect to go?
Well, last Sunday we had what we thought was going to be a very, very crushing loss to the Ballers. The team didn't start out so great. Mike Evans screwed me over once again, but what can you do? You got to keep him in there, I guess. Lamar Miller didn't have the game I thought he would, but you got to give credit to the Ballers. They come to play, and I thought they was going to actually get the win that week, but it just didn't turn out to work out for them. Big Ben and AB, they just put up a monstrous game again. Wish to God we could have them prime time for the next 2 weeks too, but we'll take what we can get. Hopefully they do good against the Patriots, but it's hard telling. And now, as we turn to Big Verge, a team that I see making it hard for us to advance to the championship game. The matchups are very, 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 very great. You got Prescott and Bryant playing at Oakland in primetime. One concern I see with Big Verge's team is the effects of Alshon Jeffrey with Nick Foles, but who knows? Jeffrey could have a monster game. And, of course, he's got the best fantasy kicker going right now with Robbie Gould. And Jacksonville's D is going to feast on Houston with Tom Savage or TJ Yates, whoever plays. So my team has got to come and show up. We got to put up some big numbers if we're going to be able to beat Big Verge.
Back again, PFA Podcast, and I'm going to turn it over to the one and only Ryan Bostumbo in the first edition of Hashtag Bo Knows. Take it away, Bo.
And this is Bo, back with your weekly edition of Bo Knows. Brady Wellman has so kindly allowed me to create this segment. It's going to be a pretty short one. I don't want it to take up too much time. Talking more about life and funny things going on. Talk a little bit of football, too. More about Bo's just thoughts on life and just where the world's headed and where our little area is headed. Just talk about some funny random things. First, I want to start with the town of Heria. It's Syria's little brother, Huntington. We're going to start calling it Heria due to the 500 shootings a day, but I really wouldn't piss on the place to put it out if it was on fire. The only thing good about it is Jay Meddings, coach of the Ballers, and Ryan Atkins, the Smokes coach, keep their jobs there. But if the rest of the city burned down due to these Florida thugs shooting and killing everybody and these Detroit gang members, wouldn't bat an eye. Next, I'm going to talk about TV shows. I mean, I am a big believer in Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones being the best two of all time. Shameless is a new show I'm watching. Very liberal, very Jay Meddings would not like it. Very vulgar show. But it has made me learn Frank Gallagher is my hero in life. So you need to live your life like. He doesn't care about women. He doesn't care about anything in life. The only thing that he cares about is getting a little piece and drinking some booze. And that's what life's about. I hope Jay Meddings ain't listening to this because he's probably ready to bring me to church tomorrow. No, it is a funny show, though. So I suggest everyone but Jay watch it. Give you a good laugh. Frank Gallagher is an absolute maniac. Just doesn't care about anything in life. Don't know how the guy's not in prison. And last but not least, we need to start thinking about who's going to be in this league next year. There's been a lot of talk about certain managers retiring. Kenny Muncie, won't say any names, but I need to know. I think he told me last I talked to him he still wanted to be in the league, but I'd like to know who's going to be committed to the PFA year in and year out. I think what makes this league great is we got the same 12 managers every single year. I don't think we've had maybe 1 year of change, and that was when old Jay Meddings and the Ballers decided he was going to protest the league. He was going to take a knee on the PFA and quit the league. We somehow came to an agreement with the new what's the bargaining agreement. Jay Meddings liked the terms and he was willing to sign on a 5-year contract with us. Glad we could get him back, but yeah, I just think that's what sets this league apart. Same guys. We're doing our own thing. We're now making this little podcast. Funny as hell. I think it's just hilarious that we've became this creative with this league. So, Matthew Berry, if you're listening, you ain't shit. You'll never be what the PFA is. And I just want to leave you guys on this final note. Do not trust women. Your wives, your daughters, none of them can be trusted. They are all looking to ruin the world. And as the great Dakota Robertson once said, and I quote, take their phony degrees and put them back in the kitchen. Thanks, guys. I'm glad having y'all this week. Brady Wellman, appreciate you letting me do my segment. Hope to be back next week to be talking about a new championship matchup, but my championship matchup is going to be Cleverge versus the Sturs, America's team. And we'll see where it goes from there. Cleverge, a new father of 2, I think now, from what I last seen on Facebook. Not real sure. I know he had 1, but could have swore the guy was worse than Derek Robertson, knocking him up left and right. So I think he's got another on the way, unless I dreamed that. Who knows? I could have dreamed it one night, got drunk, and had a crazy dream like that. But I think Verge has got 2 on the way now. So, if Verge wins, it's going to suck him getting his 3rd and me still stuck at 2. But I could at least live with a good family man like Verge winning it. I think Sturs is my number 1 team I'm cheering for, with Verge 2nd. 3rd, I'm going to put Gideon in there, as long as I get to talk to him while he's at work. Don't like the little cocky prick once he hits the field. And then the Smokes, like the feller, I'd sit down and have a beer with him, but yeah, not dedicated enough to win the PFA, guys. Difference me and the Smokes is I love to sit down and have me a good beer, but Smokes is likely to have a good beer on the sideline in the middle of the game. He don't give a damn. Don't give a damn about nothing. I actually do respect that about him. It reminds me of Frank Gallagher. But I appreciate the segment, Mr. Wellman, and hope to see you next week, guys.
That was Ryan Stumbo with our first Bo Knows segment. We went almost an hour today on the third PFA Podcast, semifinal edition. Talked a lot of great things. Talked to our commissioner, Derek Robertson. All 4 semifinal opponents. Bo, obviously one of the most famous PFA members. And we talked to none other than our president, Donald J. Trump. And people, I hope that this satisfies your urge and your need for more PFA. We'll have another one come up here probably Monday. I want you all to have an excellent day, and I want to play you out with some more Pete Rock. This is PFA Podcast.
Father is the first, but you don't give a damn. Irresponsible, plain not thinking. Papa said chill, but the brother keep